Just under 60% of Ireland voters cast their votes on Friday, but the count rolls on this morning in several constituencies. And as the Dáil begins to come into focus, what is the outlook for the final seats still up for grabs? And zooming out, how have the parties fared with more seats in play this year? And looking ahead, should we rethink how we treat exit polls, especially since the mark was missed pretty effectively this year? Now, joining me now for a roundup on all things election 2024, Ivan Yates. Ivan, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
Now, first of all, the numbers, the way it's looking at the moment, still a few counts to come in, and there may be a little bit of switching here and there, but what are you seeing?
I'm seeing 38 Fine Gael, 48 Fianna Fáil, a total of 86. They will head in the direction of, they will agree a rotating Taoiseach on the basis of pro rata, 55% of the fixed term of the government for Fianna Fáil and 45 for Fine Gael, with Micheál going first and being elected Taoiseach early in the new year. I think they'll put the programme for government over Christmas. The Dáil will reconvene in mid-December. And on the formation of the government, they have effectively 20 independents to pick from. And I would say that the regional independents, Sean Kenny, Noel Grealish, Verona Murphy, Michael Lowry, will be the first port of call. They will talk to Independent Ireland as well. And I think Marion Harkin will sign up as well. I don't think she'll be standing again, and, she'll get something out of it. I see the prospect of ministers there. I would even include Paul Gogarty. Overall, great success for Newstalk's calling it. We got 90% of it right. The only two I didn't see at all between the individual ones and the revised one was Owen Hayes in South Bay South. Didn't see that. And I didn't see Paul Lowless for Aim 2 in Mayo. But in fairness, I was speaking to Patter about 3 or 4 that might be, that didn't materialise, and he never mentioned Paul Lawless to me, so he's close to knocking.
So you are forgiven for those minor lapses. I suppose Chris Andrews in Dublin Bay South was a definite surprise.
Yeah, the shape of it seemed to be Hazel Chu versus that Chris Andrews wasn't safe. We got the other 3 right. Vanna Bacik and Gagan, and it was pretty straightforward for Jim O'Callaghan in the end, so that was all good. And the bottom line is that the Greens, I did say to you, the Greens would face wipeout, and I did say to you that Stephen Donnelly would lose his seat. We discussed all this. In fact, listening to the Pat Kenny show is much more reliable than pollsters, it turns out.
We'll talk about that exit poll in a minute. But there is a question, I suppose. Early on, you were saying Stephen Donnelly in big trouble, closed his constituency offices in Bray and Greystones. He's going to lose his seat. There's an element of, self-fulfilling prophecies there that you have to concern yourself with. Not that you do, but the idea that, well, sure, if I vote for Stephen, it's a lost cause. It's a waste of my vote. Why not give it to somebody else?
No, people love it when I say they're in trouble and all that. The people that really get irate with me when I say so-and-so, Michael Healy-Rae, I said he's absolutely safe, and he goes mental over it. He got over 18,000 votes. Pierce Doherty got the most votes of anyone. Congratulations to both of them getting over 18,000. Now, the people that go berserk, people who actually don't do as well as expected, and they blame it on me that I cost them 2,000 votes because all their opponents said they were safe. The people who I say are in trouble, that means they can go to the doors and say, we need every last vote. You know what I mean?
Ivan Yates said I'm in trouble, and he's the oracle.
They love that. So it isn't self-fulfilling at all. It's the opposite.
What happened to Stephen Donnelly?
Well, put it like this. Don't take my word for it. I was speaking to a very senior Fianna Fáiler in the Wicklow constituency, and he said to me that Stephen just didn't get it. The idea, he didn't hold any clinics. He thought he was a national parliamentarian. You see, he started off in the Soc Dems, and when he left the Soc Dems to join Fianna Fáil, he really wasn't merged into the DNA of the common membership and the Court of Counter, in my opinion. And then Jennifer Whitmer came along and took his old vote, the Soc Dem vote. So he was left in a difficult spot. But you saw this coming in the local elections. Bray East, Bray West, Fianna Fáil ended up with no councillor. They need to completely reorganise. They need a really good ground game because they're up against what is now a phenomenal Harris machine.
And Harris managed to bring a running mate in, and that's all kudos
And
to him.
in spite of the mother and father of a row involving Shay Cullen, who thought he was going to be selected, wasn't, blamed Harris and ran as an independent and went quite close without making it.
Now, the celebrity candidates, we saw, I suppose, the most notorious of them, the Monk, losing out at the last minute to the Labour Party, and Paul Reynolds doing quite a job on the Monk in trying to get him to talk about it. He accused Paul Reynolds of being in the pay of the state and RT and all of that. The irony of that, while he was looking himself for a job to be paid for by the state.
Yeah, no, I was. I didn't take his candidacy seriously. I didn't highlight him. I never rated him, and I'm delighted that he was defeated. I rarely take an opinion on a candidate, but in my view, he's a career criminal. No place for him in the Dáil. I get the kind of dislocation of people who are anti-establishment. I get all that, and I understand that, and so on. But put it like this. I actually interviewed Marie Sherlock last night on our election special, and I'm delighted for her. You know, she's a niece of Joe Sherlock, and Sean Sherlock stepped down this time in Mallow with the redraw of the constituencies in Cork North Central. So I'm delighted to Sherlock tradition, and that comes after Joe Costello spent about 40 years in that part of the world for the Labour Party.
Now, there's no question that those who were really successful in this election have to be Social Democrats, but also the Labour Party. All the major parties will try to say they did much better than they had the right to expect. But who can make that boast viably?
Well,
I mean, in seats, Fianna Fáil can certainly do it. Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Micheál Martin, I think, can say that, you know, the situation was that the confidence in supply was a disaster. They had a wipeout in 2011, made a good recovery in 2016, and confidence in supply, they lost 8 seats. They're now back to where they want to be. Look, you know, it depends where you start judging things from. Sinn Féin relative to the local elections, Lazarus-like recovery. They've actually made real progress in areas like Waterford, in Galway East. So there's green shoots for them. Absolutely, Labour reached maximum toxicity water rates 2014 in government. They're now back as a serious political party. The Soc Dems, you know, despite the unavailability of their leader, had a really good digital campaign. They were a magnet for transfers. But let's be real about this. You know, I was listening to Shane and others talking like there won't be serious talks with the next government and those. The other thing they would say is
does this free up the Sinn Féin and those left-ish parties to form a grand alliance that would, in 5 years' time, offer a real coherent choice, not just going on and on about change, but actually saying this is the change, this is what's on offer against the two big parties?
Well, first of all, the reality is they're in competition with each other.
Yeah.
Even between the Soc Dems and Labour. I mean, like, a lot of those, seats, Dublin South Central, Dublin West and so on, it was actually Labour versus Soc Dems. So don't underestimate that this is not like we talk about an own label brand and your ham on the shelf. You're talking about a situation that they are actually competing with each other, and don't underestimate that, their history and so on. So, look, they are fragmented, they're splintered, and that's a reality. But, when you saw the 10-party leader debate, that brought the reality of whether they want to work together. There's a ceiling of about 72 TDs that genuinely call themselves left, whether they're independent for change or whatever. As regards who did badly, the independents didn't do great. There were, a lot of independents that were knocking on the door. Willie O'Leary in Cork East, Michael Fleming in Rathdown, but they only knocked on the door. They didn't go in the door. And I think the message that, too much fragmentation is a bad idea, I think got votes back for Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. Look, they'll all say they had a great election, and at some point relative to their past history, that will be true. And good luck to them all, but the reality is this is a game for power, and power is sealed now for the next 5 years.
I'll read you some of the comments coming in. Easy to analyse the Greens being kicked out. Cycle lanes and reduced herd sizes managed to annoy all of us. They brought nothing to voters except contempt. Good riddance, says Rose. The turnout percentage figures are definitely not accurate. We called to have my deceased dad removed from the electoral register 6 months ago, but a polling card still arrived for him. That's according to Joe in Galway. A number of people challenging you on what you got wrong. Ivan Yates did not see Grace Boland, Fine Gael in Skerries, in Dublin Fingal West getting elected. He got that wrong. And so did the bookies. So I collected from them a nice winning.
Yeah, on the register, first of all, a winter election, and looking at the surge and recovery of Sinn Féin in the last 10 days of the campaign, they listened to Ivan not to have a February election. That would have only accelerated over time, and people would have got grumpier and grumpier. So I saved, you remember we listened to months of Harris and Micheál saying that they wanted a February, go the full term, March is the right time, February is the right time. No, it wasn't. They were lucky to get it in before Christmas. And I think actually it would have been worse for the government, and it might have been decisive if they had held a later election. On the register, people tell me that they got 2 polling cards and all this, and Arthur Leary of the Electoral Commission really needs to focus on that more than anything else. Now, there will be areas where there's such disillusionment that the turnout would be low, but that's actually a failure of the people who are seeking their votes. I mean, one of the key things in an election is to get your vote out. You failed.
Yeah, the question is, though, I'm told that last Thursday night was a college Christmas where all the colleges go out on the Raz. So whatever appetite you might have for voting the day after you've been on the Raz, it might be dimmed somewhat by how you find yourself, and then you've got to make your way home if you're a student to your home place to cast your vote. On top of that, Christmas definitely began last Friday. There's no question about it. Yeah?
Snowflake Central, please give me a break.
I'm not justifying
it.
If
you care so little about voting because you have a hangover, I mean, the polls were open from 7 in the morning till 10 at night.
You mean vote on your way home from your party?
Well, whatever
7 in the morning.
I was in the convention centre doing an award ceremony Thursday night. I didn't get home till all hours, and I'm still able to go vote. I mean, the old adage: if you don't vote, don't complain. Please give me a break.